what happened with the Rooney Rule and in the attempts to, as we were reading, put more teeth into it, more incentivizing that involved draft choices? What was actually put on the table and what was actually done over the last 2 weeks, Jim?
Well, Rich, a lot of that has been conflated. Two things have been conflated. Number one, the Rooney Rule was separate from the resolutions that were being presented to the owners. The Rooney Rule is something that's instituted by the league office. It does not require a vote of the owners, so the league can make those changes on its own, and it did. And it changed the requirements now where you have to interview a minimum of 2 minority candidates for any GM or head coaching position. And it also said that now teams must also apply the Rooney Rule to the coordinator position, which is huge because, as you know, many owners want head coaches who have at least coordinator experience. And what this will do, all right, let me backtrack. I should also say there was another enhancement there where the league said now that, let me get this right, the league said that teams will no longer be allowed to block assistant coaches from interviewing for coordinator positions. That was a resolution that was voted on by the owners. It's separate from the Rooney Rule. Mm-hmm. That's huge because, as I said, many owners want head coaches who have coordinator experience. This should get minorities into the pipeline as coordinators. As it relates to the incentive part of this thing, where they talked about improving draft positions in the third round for teams that hired minority GMs or head coaches, that was something that a lot of people just weren't comfortable with at this point, both in terms of ownership and even in the minority community. The minority coaches I talked to did not like that idea because, one, they felt like it was bad for the league because it looked like you had to bribe owners simply to hire a person of color, and secondly, they felt it put a scarlet letter on their chest and that the only reason they got the position was because of the color of their skin. Now, having said that, I can tell you I talked to a couple of former minority head coaches who told me, look, we don't care what the means are to get that opportunity. We just need to get our foot in the door and show we can do the job, and hopefully that will allow us to bring along other people.
Well, I had Andy Reid on my show the other day, Jim, and asked him about Eric Bieniemy and why, basically what gives, right? I mean, we anybody who's been around the league knows who Bieniemy is and knows that he suffers no fools. I mean, we saw some video, I think on NFL Game Day Morning a few years ago, where he was just giving the business to Adrian Peterson. I think in his 2,000-yard season or fresh off it, right? I mean, he just doesn't care who you are. He's going to coach you hard. He is also now a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator. Prior to that, leading up, he was clearly an offensive coordinator for a team that was Super Bowl worthy. And he's still...
And had a league MVP at quarterback.
Right, exactly. Yes, there's that too. And Andy didn't mention racism or color of skin or Rooney Rule. He mentioned that that people hire coaches when guys like him are going on playoff runs, and it's tough to get at him or get him to interview. Or that was essentially his implication, that the problem was the schedule and allowing guys like him to be interviewed or wait is essentially what I was gathering. I wonder what your thoughts are on a subject like that, and I hope I'm not completely mischaracterizing.
I don't buy it at all, Rich. I'm sorry, and I know that Andy behind the scenes has been pushing very hard for Eric to get an opportunity and has been asking people, what do I need to do, what can I do, those sorts of things, because he believes he's deserving of that opportunity. But the reality is, if you believe that someone is worth waiting on, you wait on them. I just feel that way. Look at how many times teams, particularly, let's say a couple of years ago, Indianapolis with Josh McDaniels, they knew who they wanted before his playoff run was over. So I don't buy that it's timing or the schedule or anything like that. What I hear from these minority coaches is, look, there is a problem here in terms of owners' comfort level with people who don't look like them, don't share the same social backgrounds as them or cultural backgrounds as them. But I would go to take it one step further, Rich. I think it's what Tony Dungy said to me last summer when I was working on a story, and he said that NFL owners simply don't know how to hire head coaches. And we point out, because what happens every hiring cycle, the first question we hear from people is, who are the hot candidates? And owners are guilty of that too. And what they don't do first is establish, what are they looking for in a head coach? Do you want someone with past experience or someone who's fresh? Do you want someone older, someone younger? You want someone from offense, defense, or special teams? Do you want someone who's hands-on, or do you want someone who delegates? Do you want someone who's more charismatic, or do you want someone who's more laid-back, understated? All of these questions should be answered before you ever even get to the point of saying, who should we consider to be our head coach? And if you haven't done that, that reflects why, since 2000, we've had an average of nearly 7 head coaches changing every year. You're talking about a quarter of the workforce among head coaches changing every year since 2000. So as an owner, doesn't that tell you that your business model is flawed if you're making those changes that often? So I would say I would go one step further and say it all starts at the top, and it starts with owners. And the league has done everything, is trying to do everything it can to address this issue, because it is not a good look for the league. But unfortunately, the league does not hire head coaches. And if there's one thing we know about owners to this point is they're pretty damn good at firing, but they're not very good at hiring.
Jim Trotter here on the Rich Eisen Show. I don't mean to laugh, but you're kind of spot on right there.